Hello, Lean World. We are happy to start our conversation today in the 30th anniversary of publishing of Machine That Changed the World. Today, actually 30 years ago in November, the book was published, and today probably will be the good time for the combining our world of machines with the digital world. And I'm really happy to present Nigel Dalton, one of the finest representatives of this super actual knowledge of lean, agile, digital. Nigel Dalton, he is chairman of Lean Enterprise Australia, and also I would say that he's a Lean Agile guru. I know what I'm saying because I'm working with him in the LGN group for Lean Digital, and I'm really happy for you guys for this opportunity to listen for this knowledge. Nigel, please present, and happy time for all you guys for this 30 minutes.
Thank you, Serhi, and perhaps you can do me the honor of translating some of my Kiwi into European languages if there's any confusion, because tonight I will talk fast because I have a few things to tell in my story. And thank you for celebrating that anniversary. That's key to my story tonight. So quite simply, I want to suggest to people that almost everyone is digital now. And I will tell you the history of how we came to this point. And then I will tell you why I believe lean is incredibly helpful for companies that find themselves in 2021 waking up to how digital they have become, how reliant on computers they've become. So I have there a beautiful diagram from a car of the electronic control unit. And that's going to be a theme throughout our day because we have reached a point where electronics and computers are very important in our lives. Now, I should warn you that maybe you should not believe me despite what Serhi says, because I am a man who appeared on Australian television saying that telepathy, mind control, would soon be a way we controlled our computers. So maybe I'm crazy. And I must also warn you that the last time I wrote software code was at 37 years ago at university, and it was Fortran, and that's it. I still have the cards there. So if you need some Fortran, then endorse me on LinkedIn for doing that. I'm not an engineer. I'm a social scientist. I'm a student of change and changing technologies and generations. This is outside my house, just here in Melbourne, Australia. It is the telephone box. We still have them. And that is the yellow pages, they are called. They are the pages and addresses of all the people whose listings are in the phone box, or in the phone book, it is called, and they still make them. So we live in a time where the old world is not over yet, but the new world is here, and in between is sometimes confusing. And sometimes we think, oh, we go back, and sometimes we think forward. So interesting times. Now, this is a photograph of what my friends think I do at work as a digital professional all day. I am Minority Report, controlling data and stopping crime and do those things. But you know the truth, don't you? The truth is, this is how I spend my day, manually reconciling data files from 5 sources while maintaining 3 conversations and negotiating on Zoom with a very angry looking group of people. So, you know, that's the truth of a life in digital. It's not as glamorous as we might let out. Now, this journey began particularly in digital when I moved to America in 2000 and began a startup and learned extreme programming, the agile way of working. Prior to that, I had been a student of traditional ways of working, ISO 9001, those kind of things. When I came back to Australia eventually in 2007, I went to work for this company, which some of you might know. And they made travel guides. And they are not in business anymore because they missed out the small device that is on that bookshelf, which was a mobile phone. And they did not believe that anyone would ever travel to the Ukraine with a mobile phone and search on Google for the very best restaurants to eat in and to how to find the best wine and hunting and tourism and all the good things to do. Nobody believed that was possible at Lonely Planet. So I've learned my lessons the hard way, but we did have a lot of fun with Agile. And these are some photographs of my time and the lessons and experiments that we did. And it was tremendously encouraging the way we could collaborate and work together. I took those lessons from 2007 to 2011 to my next employer, who were a global company, digital company as part of the News Corp family, Rupert Murdoch's company in New York. Not everyone's friend, but quite a large organization. I took my lessons and I applied them in many ways across the whole globe, America, China, and Australia. And we learned to manage large-scale, complex digital projects. Now, by now, I'm in a very comfortable position. Lonely Planet printed books. I still have some, you know, they have to go to a printer. They are physical objects, not digital. In this world, there is only digital. They do not have printed books or listings of real estate. They only have websites and mobile apps. So the things I learned there are very important. And my overall reflection as a social scientist is that I've spent too much of my life trying to solve human problems, difficult human problems, with technology. And that's a big mistake that we make sometimes, particularly in a digital world. This is part of my journey to the lean world. So I was very lucky to receive a visitor. You might recognize that gentleman there. He is, in fact, one of the authors of this book, who visited my workplace to see what had happened to his beloved lean ways of thinking in a digital world after agile software development had been working for so long and stolen many of their good ideas. So he was a very strong visitor, and he, as always with Lean Sensei, was very challenging to me and all of the 450 people I had working for me building websites and apps. Now, so on this history of work, which goes back 100 years, I started my career in the world of Henry Ford and believing that everything was in like clockwork and sequence in process and scientific management. And I have ITIL qualifications. I have project management body of knowledge qualifications, ISO 9001 certification. I have done. But my belief today is everything below the line, that people are what makes businesses. And the history of that is what fascinates me, because most of it comes from the world of lean. So what can we learn from lean that applies to digital businesses? Well, let's take the journey. Because a digital business is, and we need to agree what that might be. And this is one of my favorite businesses. We had as a guest this afternoon the Orange Sky Laundry team, who have been a partner of Lean Enterprise Australia for quite some time. And they are a very digital business. What they do is they have invented traveling vans with 2 washing machines and 2 clothes dryers inside. And they travel with volunteers to wash homeless people's clothes. Homelessness in Australia is a giant problem. You might think that sounds not right for such a rich country, but we have a very sad homelessness and mental health crisis. 120,000 people homeless tonight. So these Orange Sky Laundry people have applied lean, and it looks like a physical business, Serhi, but in fact, it's got machines, but it is very, very digital for their planning and execution. Everything is connected. Every washing machine is an Internet of Things connected device. And if you go to their website and see their map, the map has little blinking lights, and that is a customer having their clothes washed in real time right now. So I define a digital business as any organization heavily relying on computers to deliver value to their customers. And that is almost everybody, from farmers to mines with their vast remote vehicle forces, right down to the smallest business on the corner with payments. Now, in digital businesses, the tribes from the past have had to come together and meet in the same universe. So Power Rangers have now met Ninja Turtles, and that is what we used to call technology and the business. And in the modern digital business, those two tribes have become one. And it's not always easy, and it doesn't always work because they look very different and they speak differently. And that's much of the challenge, because we are in the halfway times, the 2020s still changing to being much more digital. Now, what's special about a digital product or service is how it is made and how waste happens for this, how muda happens for that. And it's the number one test is, can you explain to an accountant that every time you write some code that you do create a feature that's fantastic of your product or service, but you also make defects or bugs, you create risks because you've done this and that blocks out that. You create habits for your organization, which result in culture, and you cut corners. So in future, you will have to make an investment to pay off technical debt, we call it. And the time thieves, the enemies of digital workers, are unplanned work, dependencies that just, oh, I didn't know that was connected to that, I now have to wait, conflicting priorities from bosses, too much work in progress. You know these principles from Lean, don't you? There has to be some slack in the system. And also technical debt. They steal the productivity of companies. Those are very Lean flavored things. How do you explain technical debt? The best way is a kitchen. If Gordon Ramsay has a beautiful kitchen, you know, 2-star Michelin, but he does not clean the kitchen, then within 2 weeks, he will lose his Michelin stars. He will poison his customers. And with digital businesses dependent on software, you must continually clean the kitchen. And that's not something that accountants and chief executives and other people understand easily. Our job is to explain that all the time. So let's have a journey through time. 1991, Serhi, what were you doing? You were probably still at school because you're a young man. I, in 1991, was getting ISO 9001 certification and believing that scientific management would solve all of my problems in business. And Jim Womack was writing this book, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I did not read it in 1991, and I wish I did. So it's a very important time. What did cars look like in 1991? Well, let's have a look. This is the Toyota Camry in 1991. Now I want you to spot, where is the digital part of this car in 1991? Which parts are digital? Because it runs on petrol, it has no cruise control, it has no reversing technology, it has almost nothing. It just has electronic ignition, which means it needs a few thousand lines of code to make it work. 99% of the Toyota Camry, when Jim wrote the book, was a mechanical device. It was not a digital device. And what I want you to think about is, when does the Toyota Camry become a digital device in history? Because that's important to understanding what digital means. So there we are, 1991. People like me, the software was either very huge, an accounting system, or very small on my computer, Windows 95, very annoying, but a very small and relatively simple and slow tool to use. So software was just a tool that you used accordingly. And some of us were building giant process and Gantt charts to manage projects and delivery. I love this quote from Mitch Ratcliffe that, as I learned in later life, it's a computer can make some terrible mistakes for you and have you believe in a Gantt chart, for example, because you wrote it all in. So that's the 1990s. In 2001, 10 years after the book and about 20 years ago today, the web has now begun to eat the world. In 2001, Serhi, you're starting your first job. I've moved to America to make my fortune in a .com. I've learned extreme programming. And even this old guy, he's decided to become digital. And News Corp have bought MySpace. And coding is still hard. Like, software is expensive and writing it is hard and hardware is expensive. So it's not easily accessed at all. But everybody wants to be on the web. That's the new thing. And the Toyota Camry is so much better in 2001. Now it has many more lines of code in it because it's got cruise control. It's got reversing elements, it's got sensors, and it's got multiple CPUs under the bonnet. So maybe, 10,000 lines of code in a Toyota Camry in 2001, all running the system, all needing to be tested as the car is built. It also looks more handsome, I have to say. Now, the thing was, not everybody had equal access to the internet in 2001. And some people thought it wasn't even going to be a thing because it was so slow. The hardest thing was to become connected to the web. And we got the Agile Manifesto. So February 2001, in the mountains of America and in Utah, a group of engineers got together, and some of those are my colleagues at ThoughtWorks today. And they challenged us to make better code with less problems, because they'd had the 1990s with so many failures from the very big, expensive projects, creating big systems for controlling factories and accounting. And they were rather tired of being blamed for failure. So they invented the Agile Manifesto. It was very humanistic. It has principles, none of which told us how to write code, by the way. So it really is just principles. It took the methods, Scrum, Kanban, extreme programming, to tell us how to code in those structures. And Scrum came from Lean. It came from this article after the founders, Sutherland and Schwaber, read the Harvard Business Review in 1986 and read about Japanese methods of creating new products by working as multidisciplinary teams. And there it is. That's the article, the new product development game. It's a miracle for 1986. Because in Agile, from there, we went crazy with methods and software development techniques. And I became famous for trying to make a software development method work in business processes. It worked for marketing and sales and operations. And it took a while before someone took me aside and said, all these crazy methods you've got on your screen here, somebody already built that. It's called Lean, and it was made in Japan in the 1970s. So that's when I learned that, why did they make that in the 1970s? And I also, in the 2000s, while that Toyota Camry was popular, started seeing the mess that Agile could create, because it was just a software method, and it very soon broke the people, the tools, governance, financial controls, product people, and your organization, demanding multidisciplinary teams. And so that was like, there must be something bigger than this we can find to make it work. Now, 1 decade on, only 10 years ago. So now Serhi is a very successful consultant, young man, and I, in 2011, am just finishing up at Lonely Planet. Having done the job, we failed to write a strategy that included the mobile phone. And this man, Mark Andreessen, has a brilliant vision. He says, now software is easy. We have social media, we have mobile, we have e-commerce. We have so many new ways that makes it easy for people to create digital products and services. That is what I will invest in for the next 10 years. And coupled with the book, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, which is not really lean at all, but he used the phrase, people were encouraged to make things fast and to pivot, to change their plan with other people's money. And we set out on the most remarkable era. The Toyota Camry in 2011 looks pretty nice, doesn't it? It's much improved. But by this point in 2011, it has over 250,000 lines of code. If you take them out, this car cannot be driven. So now I'm going to suggest we are in the digital era. And because a Toyota has become digital, and you'll probably remember the scandals of 2006 to 2014 in America, where Toyota got into trouble over runaway cars and accelerating engines, those kinds of things. They were found to be innocent, but the damage was done. And much of the blame went on the complexity of the software. So I put to you that the Camry has become a digital product now, not a car. And the real problem was we have this drink in New Zealand. This alcohol is what teenagers love. It is cheap. It is made with cheap vodka and fruit juice. And you get drunk very quickly and you have a terrible headache the next day. Your house looks like these pictures on the right. This is the equivalent of the software we were able to get our hands on from 2011 to today. Sure, everyone is now digital, but not with good quality products. And so now we have the hangover. Because like JavaScript, these key tools for mobile and web, we would have a new JavaScript framework every 3 months. We would have these tools, which are marketing technology tools, in the beginning only 150. By the end of the decade, a marketing department could implement any one of 7,000 pieces of software, which if you work in IT, you need to integrate with. My other field of interest is machine learning and artificial intelligence. Look at the tool set currently available here around the choices. So this is still my vodka cruiser, ready to drink alcohol headache being caused for digital businesses. And this is a picture of a modern database. It's 1 million pieces everywhere and very complex. So my 2021, we're now up to the present time. We started 30 years ago and now we're here. And I'm saying lean is the new agile, because the problem is not to make software. The problem is healthy organizations that are resilient and growing. And for that, let's take a look at the 2021 Toyota Camry. What a car, Serhi. Hybrid, cruise control, stays in its own lane. It has close to 40 million lines of code run this car. It is 100% a digital product. And we've come such a long way in that 1990s time. And if you look at Elon Musk's cars, which are not very good digital products, they are estimated to have 250 million lines of code with very little of it being tested. So quickly, we have to find all the old books, Serhi. We have to go into our libraries and find these books to remember how to run a company that is a bit volatile and uncertain and complex and ambiguous in fast-growing times, because it's happened before. It happened to Japan. That is my theory. Japan in the 1960s, and even when John Shook went in 1982, was crazy. The consumers had all the power. The new products were required every 6 months. Service levels were highly demanded. The media is emerging, and what they dealt with there and how they learned to run businesses with lean, we must use today, whether that is Kaizen thinking about product development, whether that is Hoshin Kanri, my popular favorite of lean tools to help alignment and focus for modern digital businesses. It could be what we saw at the 2019 Houston Lean Summit, with Christian Lindwall explaining Spotify's prioritization method based on the bets work, the gambling work of Annie Duke. That's a prioritization mechanism that is incredibly lean, and we're all about studying flow and value to customers. We also met Jez Humble at that same lean conference, and now lean's having a lot of digital people turn up and speak on the big stages. It's a very simple thing. Measurement is all he is saying. Measurement and good teamwork. And people are now worried about the health of people in the work. So if you had a CPU at this much load, you'd take the load off, but we don't want, but we're quite happy to have our people feel this way. We met Amy Edmondson at the last in-person Lean Global Summit because psychological safety and a willingness to speak out and give suggestions is incredibly important. Her work even picked up by Google with these amazing projects researching what makes great workers. And we have to, as Nigel Thurlow explained this morning in our talk about complexity, is not try to make everything simple. If you do that, if you continually use root cause analysis on complex problems, you'll wonder why you continually fail. And digital businesses, everything seems connected to everything. That's a good example of complexity. Now, am I worried? No, I'm not worried because the next generation coming through are amazing. They are Generation F for Fortnite. Now, I'm pretty sure Fortnite as a game has made it to Europe by now. And the kids who are playing this are in their teens. When they become our employees, they know collaboration, they know communication, they know strategy. They want things delivered quickly, and they learn like it's part of the job. This generation will save us, Serhi. And what I want people to do is take the Womack challenge, not to read his book from 1991, but to do this. Whatever company you're in, this is the lesson he taught me when he visited, is take any piece of work being done by a person and ask that person, how does their little tiny piece of work serve a customer and align to the purpose of the company? And when you can do this, you will be in the top percentage of performing digital businesses. So that's my challenge for everyone, Serhi. How's that? 1 minute to go.
Yes, you are right on time, but we actually in this sessions room, we can stay a little bit longer. We have a question from Ukraine, actually from Taras. He's asking you about DevOps as a lean approach to improving the software development process. What do you think, Nigel?
I have seen remarkable results from it. And the reason comes back to psychology, not engineering practices. And the psychology is that if you build something and they make you also maintain it, you build it better. And I watched it with a team of 400 when we did that philosophy. I watched the quality of the software rise continuously over 3 years to a point where our work to fix bugs went from almost 80% of our work was fixing bugs at the beginning to only 20% of our work. And it came from adopting this commitment, the skin in the game that Jez and the team created with their book and their model. And now there is DevSecOps, build security into your thinking as well, and data as well. So I'm very, very pleased to say that works. And if you can spend some time, it's worth the investment.
Super. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you from the people that were listening. They're sending you their thanks. And guys, thank you for joining us in this session. Enjoy the rest of the conference and get a pleasure out of Lean. Thank you.
Very good.
Bye-bye.
Serhi, we'll have a drink before Christmas, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you for hosting.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.